people, and welcome back to another 3 Men and a Vape show. It is a Wednesday, it is 8 o'clock-ish. My computer decided it wanted to restart and do an update just as we want to go on, but it would not be the same without it. We have got our very, very special guest, the wonderful Vaping with Vic. I'm sure he doesn't need really any introduction. I think we all know who he is. We have got the wonderful co-host as normal, the wonderful Salford Vapor, and Mr. Coyley. It has been 2 weeks, lads. Are we all alright? It's been a week. It's been a week.
It's been a week, yeah. Ahead of yourself. You've been across the Pennines, that's the problem.
That's the problem, yeah.
Yeah. Step back in
Can
time.
everybody tell us in chat that you can hear us? Don't even do that. Don't even do that. I've had enough stress for the last 25 minutes. It's not the greatest. And we've got the wonderful Vic Mullins. How are you, brother? Always nice to see you.
Yeah, doing all right.
You had a good day?
Nah.
Down at the office.
Yeah, it was one of those days.
Was it? I ate one of those days. I've actually had a really good day. I've been with Paul McCartney. He's on his way back now, all the way back up to sunny Scotland. I think he's halfway there. He's got a 5-hour drive. So if you are listening, he said he might stop over and have his sandwiches that my wife's made him. So I hope you're enjoying your ham sandwiches there, brother. But yeah, it's been a great day. And I've been down to Chris's shop, which has been brilliant at Empires. Got myself some of the Enigma as well. I've just filled it up. It is really nice. It's got some complex flavours in there.
It does.
Do you think?
Yeah.
I could definitely taste the pear.
I thought it was fucking apple at first.
Did you?
I think it's just got the right name. It's a fucking Enigma.
Yeah, it's definitely. You can definitely taste that pear in there. Right, now everything seems to be like it's running. I will get the chat up. Right, I'll tell you, we'll do a quick buffet. We'll go across and we'll go straight away to our wonderful guest. What are you vaping on, Mr. Mullins?
Vaporesso Gen with the Kelpie sitting on top. Go and buy one now. Yay! SX Mini with the black Kelpie on top. Go and buy one now. Thank you very much. Aspire AVP with some of Les Pickens tobacco in it with 12mg stuff. And I've got the Rebuff RTA with the Thor 2.
Oh, that's nice.
And that's it.
And that was a commercial by Vaping with Vic.
Yes, it was. Go and buy a Kelpie. Thank you.
That's how you do it, Salford, as quickly as that.
Yeah, I do apologise about Nightbot. I've turned it off, so how the hell it's still working, I haven't got a clue. So we'll go over to the Salford. Just only put a couple of emojis in, just don't put 8 of them in.
You're over to me, are you?
We'll go over to you.
Me. Right, all I'm on is True Tank, own tobacco, recurve dual with some peanut butter and jelly.
What mod's it on, Salford? What mod's it on? You didn't say what mod it was on.
It's not a recurve.
Oh, right, sorry, you did so. Well, you said the recurve dual, didn't you? You said the recurve mod, sorry.
I shouldn't have to explain it, that's a recurve mod.
I couldn't see, because you didn't have
that
that angle.
Penguin, whichever way you look at it, on there.
All right.
Come on. The Kelpie on the Shogun, of course. Go out and buy one, Vic says. And I've got some, what I've got in that, I've got lime zest cookie that nobody likes only me up to now. And the Bombus on top of the Mechman. Vic, any ideas why they call it a regulating mod, a Mechman?
It's because the original plan for that mod was to be called the Iron Man, and they couldn't do it. Obviously.
Right, yeah. So there you go.
I thought you said Mechman's dick.
Do you have a wobbly door on that Mechman? Because I have a wobbly door on mine, and I can't use it because it is just
Mine
so.
was all right.
But really. No, mine's fine. It's just you. It's just you. That's all.
Yeah.
Just yours. And that's it for me. That's all. Oh, besides my pipe and my slippers I've already got on. That's it.
I do like that pipe. It's a bit of the Sherlock Holmes type of pipe, isn't it? It's
the old man with slippers.
You nearly knocked your
right,
camera over.
That's what it is.
Everything we're going then.
That's the highest I've had my foot in years, believe me.
So we'll go straight over to the wonderful Mr. Coyley. How are you, brother?
I'm very well. Knackered. 2 days over the Pennines again. Same time as you as well.
On the decent side of the Pennines?
No.
That's what I said. Just to let Pav G know, I'm so sorry. I've turned Nightbot off. For some reason, it's still doing the spamming of symbols. Just be careful on symbols, people.
So, I've tried to get some VIC related things in tonight. Well, this isn't VIC related, but I rarely vape on a stockpile tank. I'm obviously on holiday next week, so I'm trying out a stockpile tank to see what it's like before I go on holiday. So that's the Falcon King. Are you listening, Aiden?
Yeah, the Falcon King.
How rude. Yeah.
I'm not.
Falcon King with on top of the paranormal, and in that I'm addicted to this stuff. The Cherry Bakewell by Home Baked. Absolutely love it to bits. But I honestly love that Falcon King. Absolutely love it to bits. That's going on holiday with me to Lanzarote next week. I also have the Kelpie. On top of the Asmodeus Lustro Stabwood, and in that I have this, which I bought a while ago, and I stuck it on a shelf, and I've not vaped it a lot. It's Doe Brothers. I think is it apple pie or apple crumble or something like that, which is really nice. It's got a bit of like a bit of cooladrin or something to make the apple, like the green apple, stand out. So it's quite nice. Also on the topside carbon, recurve dual on top of that, and in there, as last week, I have the rhubarb and custard by Moorish Boof.
Moorish Boof.
Moorish Boof. Another Vic related one, Digiflavor Siren. So downstairs I have three things. I have a pod, I have this, and I have a chew tank sat downstairs. These ones that I use in the house. So the Digiflavor Siren on top of the Aspire Speeder, and in there I have Just Jam Raspberry.
Very nice.
And what else? Oh yeah, I have a sort of Vic related because it's Scottish. The Claymore.
Oh.
And on top of the Claymore, I've got the Kennedy 24. And in that I have the King's Custard. As always, whenever I use a mech, it's always King's Custard. And finally, I've got pod-wise, I've got the Orchid.
Ooh.
Which is the most frustrating thing ever. Because the flavour on it is
I don't think your wife would say that.
Absolutely brilliant. The flavour. It's like it's variable, so it's got a little screen on it. And I want to shit kind of it's going all blurry into it, but the battery life on it is absolutely shite.
Yeah.
It's horrendous. 50, 60 pulls I got off it, and that's it. It's gone. It's dead, and that's a 950 mAh battery. So what I thought I'd do is I'm going to vape on this all night, so you can see it's for the next hour, so you can see it's full now, and we'll just show you it at the end of the show when we're finished.
There's obviously going to have to be
Just before you start, Aidan, do you remember that little comment you gave to me to see how that's how Vic does it? Do you remember that just before?
What?
No, it's completely gone out of my mind so far.
I thought it might have done.
There was actually a comment in chat which was pretty good as well, was saying, has he got anything left on his desk? There was quite a few on there.
I've got, what else have I got? I've got a topside dual normal, but there's nothing on top of that. I've got a...
Oh, we're doing that one, are we?
I've got an old Coolfire 4, the 18650 TC. Yeah. See, now you're all putting me to shame.
And that's not even the office. Can you imagine if that were the office?
Oh, there's
There'd be
another
quite a few
100
more
mods
in
in
there.
that cupboard behind me.
I keep having to rearrange stuff. I have to keep putting stuff up in the loft because I run out of space on my shelves. So, and that's it. I'm finished. I'm done.
You're finished. Well, I'd like to say thank you very much to everybody who's joined us tonight and everybody in chat, and thank you very much to all the spanners as well for joining us. That's it. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Well, obviously, we have to. I've gone on the Kelpie with the Banshee, which I love the Banshee. We always got to put the Kelpie out there. Go and buy one. We have then got the Vapemon Gearbox, which I love that. It's just a nice looking thing.
I like that mod.
With the Falcon King on top, with some Enigma. Finally got my hands on it. I'm on my first tank of it, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. And last but not least, the Cold Steel from Ambitious Vapor 100 with the off tank on it, with some of my Yo juice. You can get that from Les Pickin at the Juice Cabin. which is a bit of a. It's called Tactic, and it does look like there's loads of baked beans on it. I know it does, and I also know it does look like there's like loads of cheesy whatsits. But if you like a Tic Tac, get yourself over there. It released yesterday, which was so nice to go down to his store. If anybody is around Featherstone, Pontefract way, get yourself there. It is absolutely huge, and the store is. The downstairs is just full of juicers and mods. Upstairs you've got his clean room and everything. That man has got more concentrates than just absolutely everything. And what he's been doing, Vic, you'll probably know a little bit more about it than me. He's been getting the tobacco leaves, and it's called, what's it called? Is it webbing?
Naturally extracting.
Yeah, naturally extracting it. Puts it in like a tub of like when you do like a home brew. Leaves it for so long, and then he has to go through a cleaning process to make sure it's obviously you can use it. But yeah, it was just fantastic. The amount of different tobaccos you can get.
Yeah.
And he's had to import them as well, which you have to go through a load of rigmarole. But yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. You've reviewed quite a lot of them, haven't you, Vic?
I've reviewed about 7 of them so far. I've still got another 6 that I need to go through.
But yeah, absolutely fantastic stall there. And also a big shout out to Empire. It was great being down there. It was lovely to see his stall. We had a good giggle there with Paul. So yeah, it's been obviously it's my birthday week because it's my birthday tomorrow. So it's
Is it?
Yeah, my 40th tomorrow. So
40.
yes, my last day being 39. So I'll never be in my 30s again. I feel all old now.
That's it. Downhill from now on. Just think, in a year and a half's time, you'll look like Salford.
He's
Not young.
Yeah. Well, you're young at heart, aren't you, Salford?
Just had a tough life, haven't you, Salford?
So while we've got the man
come
here
on,
himself,
come on.
Vic, I did notice you did post. You've
Hold up to
just
be all your dad.
you've just submitted the drawings for the Kelpie Duel.
Yep.
Any idea of when that might be out or
Oh, that's not going to be until next year.
next year?
Because the Dripper's got to come out first.
All right. And when are we looking at that before Christmas?
September, Octoberish.
Oh, so we might have it for Expo.
Oh yeah, that's the plan. It's the Dripper's gonna be out before Expo. That's what we're planning for anyway. And then let that sell for a couple of months through the Christmas period, and then January, February next year we start thinking about the Kelpie Duel.
So I'm taking it that the Kelpie has done pretty well then, because obviously they wouldn't have carried on with the line if it hadn't done pretty well.
Oh yeah, that's done not bad.
Because it's just hit the US now, hasn't it?
Yeah, it took fucking long enough.
Yeah, because there was a massive gap between us getting it and them getting it, wasn't there?
There was a fucking huge gap between the US getting it and us getting it. It's just that nobody would pick up EH Pro stuff over there. That's the problem.
That's strange, isn't it?
Not really. I mean, a lot of these big companies like Element Vape and Vapor DNA, if they're picking up a tank or a dripper that's got a reviewer's name on it, they're going to choose an American reviewer because they're bigger. Simple as that.
Do you actually find out how many have been sold in total? Then do you know how many have been sold in total?
It's over 10k so far.
Is it? Bloody hell!
It's over. Well, it's batches of 5,000. So the first batch went out. That was the one with the old. That was the one with the shit screws inside the packaging. Batch 2 has all shipped. They're on to batch 3 now.
Blimey.
So it's definitely shifting. It's definitely shifting.
I'm definitely looking forward to the dual coil, the single coils, and because the single, I get the flavour out of the single coil I get out of a dual coil tank. So if the dual coils, I will have double the flavour. But if it's better flavour than that, I'll be in the element.
The dual coils, it's going to be different. Put it that way.
So it's not like you just took the deck, made it a little bit bigger so you can stick 2 coils in it, and then off you go. It's going to be totally sort of different.
Yeah.
When are we going to see the Kelpie mouth to lung, the one I'm waiting for?
That's going to be after the Kelpie Duel.
Right.
So you'll have to wait.
Dripper first by October this year, hopefully, fingers crossed. Beginning of next year, Kelpie Duel, and then it's the Kelpie mouth to lung, and then it's the Kelpie mod, and that's the whole line finished.
Oof.
It's exciting times, though, isn't it?
It is.
It is. It definitely is.
Yeah. So I would have. obviously you were saying yourself about mouth to lung, weren't you? People thought that's what you would have done because you've always been a bit of a mouth to lung yourself, haven't you?
Yeah.
But
Well, the thing about mouth to lung is it's not a big market.
Yeah.
I'm just being fucking honest here. It's not a big market. It really isn't compared to what mouth to lung tanks were like back in 2015, 2016, when everyone was doing mouth to lung RTA. But when the stock coil sub-ohm tanks hit, that's when you started to see the rise of direct to lung dual coil rebuildables for tanks, and that those tanks just flew off the shelf. So that's why I'm doing the mouth to lung last, because I'm a capitalist bastard, people, and I'm not just making these tanks for the good of the community. No, I want to make fucking money from them. Right. Thank you.
But there you go. That's the honesty.
That's
Well,
just being
Of course,
honest.
you're there to make money.
You should
That's why I'm
make
doing
money
the mouth
out
to
of
lung
it.
tank last.
You should make money out of something you design, shouldn't you? If it's out there, it's no good
Yeah.
not making money out of it.
Well,
Nice
I've
to
done
see
that
you,
mistake.
Randy
I've
Smith.
done that mistake with the Digiflavor Siren 2, which Simon was mentioning. It was me and two reviewers that came up with the airflow system for that, and we never got a penny. Not a penny.
But you never even got mentioned on the box, did you?
Nah, well, they mentioned it. They mentioned it in the Instagram posts. Airflow designed by me and two Italian blokes. In fact, it was one Italian bloke and a Russian bloke, but
Sounds like a joke, that, doesn't it?
that does.
They're a Scottish bloke and an Italian bloke. All designing airflow. So, we normally do a little bit of news. Now, I didn't actually quite... sorry about that, PUBG. It's the stupid Nightbot. It'll be gone next week again. I got rid of it. It's come back. It took me 12 weeks to get the damn thing on, right? And then I can't even get the damn thing off. It's just my luck. We all know what it's like with me. We do a little bit of news. I didn't have time because obviously I've been at Empire, but I know my wonderful Mr. Coyley has been over in the news box. What have you got for us, Mr. Coyley?
There was a few news stories today, and I tried to pick up one of them, and Vic had picked up about the vape shops, so I'll maybe touch on that one. But the other one that's sort of linked to that, I'm going to play around with something tonight as well. Because
Well, don't
are you
think
two
you
going to
get
mess?
arrested
Are you?
for that.
No, because
Are you-
there's no splash screen.
You're not going to mess? But yeah, that's going to stop you messing about, isn't it? You've never seen anything. You're going to miss this, Vic. This is something that you miss that usually goes on behind the scenes. So, a Midland Hospital Trust has warned patients and visitors: if you smoke anywhere on our site, you will be fined £50, even in your car. Sandwell and West Birmingham Hospital's NH Trust has brought in a zero tolerance ban, and all smoking shelters are now off limits except for vapors. Bosses are warning that patrols will scour the sites at Sandwell and City Hospitals, dishing out fines to anyone they catch. Kevin Eva from the Trust said smoking kills, so smoking is not allowed on our site. That includes cars parked on our property. Our sites are patrolled by wardens backed up by CCTV to prevent smoking. If you are caught smoking on our site, you'll be served a fine of £50. The Trust has also announced, which is the thing that Vic mentioned in his WhatsApp, and it's been on Facebook and stuff like that. The Trust has also announced that vape shops have opened on the sites in a bid to cut smoking. Smoking enforcement officers started patrolling the site on July the 5th and work alongside staff, including security staff, to challenge people smoking on site. Cameras to support the policy are in place. They said the outlets are run by e-cig Wizard at Sandwell General Hospital in West Bromwich and Birmingham City Hospital. Using e-cigarettes outside is allowed on condition it takes place away from doorways, while smoking shelters have been converted into vaping areas. Goes on another few lines, but there's nothing much more to.
I just think it's a
Add to that.
fantastic idea.
I think it's going back to what you said, Vic, about the hospitals out in the vape shops. It can only be a good thing, isn't it? And I suppose to a certain extent, has anybody got an excuse for smoking? No, they can go to a vape shop and buy an e-cigarette to get them past that time while they're either in hospital or while they're visiting somebody.
Yeah, but we still need one policy throughout all the NHS trusts, don't we? Because they're all so different. We still need one policy.
Different.
Yeah, one policy.
If I remember rightly, e-cig Wizard was the one that we did the trio kit for, wasn't it? It was Vapto and e-cig Wizard that worked together on that.
I think it was. Yep, I think it was.
And I just think it's an absolute fantastic idea. The next, obviously, stage is to the old smoking rooms is we're talking about that is to turn them into vaping rooms. Because I think it's one of the horriblest things to see ever when you drive past a hospital and you've got people with drips and on machines and they've had to drag them all that way out
outside,
to go and have a cigarette.
Yeah.
Where if you're going to say to them, well, look, you go down there, they might even give them money off vouchers and stuff like that. If you go down to the vape shop, you can actually do it at outside the door as long as you're far enough away.
Well, it was over, I think, 12 months ago, maybe even 18 months ago, that the advice to the hospitals was to bring back the old rooms. You know, they had the smoking lounge, as a vape lounge, and also allow patients in single bed rooms to be able to vape. Now, they still haven't made a move on that, have they, even though they've been asked to sort of look at that.
I'll tell you what, to say how close that we are to the Americans and stuff like that, you've got to look how different we are to them. It's just massively, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it? You've got one stamping all over it and one that's embracing it.
Well, in America, it's all about the money because the states are going bankrupt. That's why.
I was watching your WhatsApp, Vic, and the thing that always strikes me whenever I watch your WhatsApp is how much detail you go into in these things. So, you know, when I look at the news stories, I'll sort of read the cover news story, but the information that you have on any of this stuff, when you're talking about all the states and you're talking about bonds and things like that, where, you know, it's just, you must have an absolute wealth of information stashed.
I like reading
in your head.
Yeah, I like reading a lot. It kills the time up in the studio as well when I'm waiting in fucking videos in code and just bring up vaping posts or something, have a good long read. But yeah, there's a lot of states that are teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, and the trouble is with some of these states, like California, they're called sovereign states. Somebody actually explained this. I think it was Dyer thing actually explained it in more detail down in the comments. And these bigger states, the United States cannot afford to let them fail, because here's the thing: see if you take California by itself. Just get California and imagine the big earthquake happened and California went la 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 la, and everybody magically survived the big earthquake. So California is now an independent country away from the United States. Do you realise California's income is within the top 5 per capita, country based?
Great.
So if California was separated from the United States per capita would drop down out of the top 5 and California would go up to replace them. They cannot afford to let California go bankrupt. They just can't, because if California goes down, it will take the rest of the states with it.
Yeah.
So
well, like
that's why you've got San Francisco saying, fucking ban e-cigs, keep buying your tobacco, ban fucking e-cigs. Now it looks as if Los Angeles is going down the exact same road, and that's where Grim Green stays. And if Los Angeles goes down, California's after.
Yeah.
California's after it.
And it's all down to the master agreement in it, and them spending the money in advance.
Bonds, master settlement agreement, tax income, the whole fucking lot.
A lot of them,
and a little bit sprinkled on top of that with the healthcare system over in the United States. That's why, thank fuck, I live in the UK.
You've got to think as well, they're about 10 years into spending the money in advance, aren't they? Maybe more.
Yeah.
And exactly like what you're saying, if you imagine the government have then got to try and bail out all these places. It's a little bit like ours, but in a smaller area. It was like a lot of the councils went to Iceland, didn't they? Obviously, I don't mean the food place.
Yeah, put the money in the bank.
Where mums go to shop.
Yeah, mums go to shop. I didn't mean that. I don't mean they've all gone round and spent the money on the frozen tiger prawns. You know what I mean? I meant Iceland. Yeah, they ain't got the boar sausages. But yeah, they put all the money out over to Iceland, didn't they? And Iceland were giving money out willy-nilly to everybody on loans and stuff. And they didn't pay him back. And then
the bank went bust in Iceland. I worked for Salford at the time, and the councils that invested their money in that bank to keep safe because the new cuts were coming along actually lost it. They never got a penny back.
Oh, that's basically what I would say. But they put it in there originally because they were getting a better interest rate. That was the whole point of it. And
And
like I
building
said,
for
they
the
were
cup.
still. If you remember at that time as well, a lot of Icelandic big businesses was buying a lot of London stuff. You know, like businesses that were down in London, and they all failed as well because it just went pop.
Yeah.
And like you said, none of them got the money back.
Yeah, well, you see, they didn't do the same as us, did they? They didn't create money for nothing, did they? That's what it was.
Yeah. Well, what is money really? You can just print it, can't they?
Well,
Yeah.
they can these days. They can because it's not
Yeah.
tied to
That's
gold
the-
anymore.
Yeah, not to the gold standard anymore.
But then the other point, just going back to something that I think was it 2 or 3 weeks ago, you mentioned about America being the sort of country of suing people as well. So
Oh, yeah.
all the American people that I think you said you told us that e-cigs were bad and continued smoking, and we're now dying of cancer, and they're going to be suing people left, right, and centre because they're.
You know for a fact it's going to happen, Simon. You know for a fact that there is going to be a segment of smokers in the United States that's listening to fucking cockwombles like Stanton Glantz. These cigs are bad! And that segment of smokers who was put off of using e-cigs to give up smoking, they're going to keep smoking.
Yeah.
They're going to get cancer. They're going to get unwell. And then when the 10 and 15 year, in fact, some of the 10-year studies are already starting to come out now because 2009-ish, that's when some of the long-term studies kicked in. But when some of these longer studies start coming out in 2021, 2022, and it said, yes, the Royal College of Physicians were right, it is 95% safer. You're going to have a segment of smokers in the United States suffering from cancer who was put off from using this because of fake medical reports.
Yeah.
You're going to have Stanton Glantz being sued. You're going to have Stanton Glantz's university up on the dock, and the whole fucking house of cards is just going to go.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
But it's a lot like America, though, isn't it? Because it just takes another 20 years before they find out that they've just lied to them.
Yeah.
And it happens all the time. Do you
Well,
think
I mean,
they're
hell,
going to
that's what
stand up and fight for it, though, Vic?
That's what happened. That's what happened with the Royal College of Physicians when, in the mid to late 1960s, the Royal College said, "We've linked smoking to lung cancer," and they were the first medical body to do it. It took 15 years before the Americans caught up, and that's how all the lawsuits happened.
Yeah. Yeah, it was late 50s, like you said, mid 60s, wasn't it, when they said it were tied
Yep.
to cancer?
1951, I think, was the first report with
Yeah.
of a link with cancer.
You see, I still keep coming back to this thing about the kids. Somebody sent me a link. It was about a month old. No, it was about 2 months old. About all these organisations writes into all the social media companies saying that we want you to stop promoting e-cigarettes in one way or another because it's going to encourage children to vape. I mean, I'm a parent, and to be honest, given the choice between my kids smoking and vaping, I've got a son and a daughter. His son smoked. It was him that got me into vaping. He smoked. He switched to vaping. But I would much rather my kids, if they were going to do anything, that they vape rather than smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
if vape's out there for younger people to pick up, they're going to start picking up cigarettes. They're going to go smoking because you're not going to change that. Whether it's vaping, whether it's cigarettes, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's whatever, they are going to do something one way or another. And if the option is there to have something that's 95% safer, then for me, as a parent, I would be much happier that they did that.
Well, it's like what Vic says. It's all about the kids. Save the kids. It's all about the kids.
Think of the children!
So, but what they also have been putting out there is obviously smoking's down, and they've also been saying that the teens the kids are down on smoking as well. But they then have to follow it back up with, but 1 in 4's tried vaping or 1 in 3's tried vaping. They've always got to put that little negative spin on it. But you've got to think between the ages of 11 and 15, 16, the amount of kids that tried smoking by that point anyway.
Yeah.
They're still probably still doing now, but not as many. Like you said, they're probably trying the vape, but it's just what kids do.
I mean, it's historically it must have been. I know probably not so much now because you've got the likes of Sainsbury's and everywhere else selling e-cigs. But it must be more difficult, apart from buying it online. It must be. But we've had this conversation about online before. There's got to be an element of control from the parents that they're not able to go online and buy things online.
Yeah, you've got to have control of your children.
Yeah, but for buying vape stuff, up until recently, you had to go into a vape shop. So, and I'm sure I'm probably assuming here, but you would assume that vape shops are probably more responsible than your local corner shop who's selling cigarettes and stuff like that. They're going to take or have a bit more control of who they sell e-cigs to, as opposed to your corner shop who's going to sell cigarettes and alcohol and whatever else.
A new shop's just opened locally to me. We went to. It's one of these shops where I'm not obviously going to name them. It's one of these shops where you go in, but they've got like the foreign sort of foods, and I quite like them. You know, where different types of sausages and meats and things like that. You know, I like a different type of sausage now and again.
That's Morrison's for Salford. That's foreign food. It's Yorkshire.
I finished off. I bought my stuff, and the bloke says, "Do you want any cigarettes?" He was selling cigarettes under the counter.
Oh, ho, ho.
And you know they're going to be snide, or they're going to be ones that he's probably imported, because all this stuff that he's got is obviously being imported. So in between the pickles and the sausages, they've probably got some Marlboro poo on in there or something. You know what they're selling now? I couldn't believe it.
It's like the old video vans, isn't it? That used to come around, going slightly off topic. You go in to get your video, and I mean, I'm going back to the old days of when it was VHS and Betamax. Did you have the video van came around to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You get your videos. I've got some videos under the counter. Do you want one of these from under the counter?
What, you used to get your blueies, did you?
Yeah. No, I didn't. I was a good boy.
He did. Look, he's gone red now.
No.
Look how red he's gone. Look,
well, you all know he's into his midget porn. under the counter stuff, that's exactly what you need. They're the ones that people need to be, and I think that's what will happen with vaping as well, won't it? It'll all go underground.
Oh, well, in the US, it won't over here.
Yeah, there'll be a massive black market for it in the US.
That's the worst thing that can happen. Absolutely, without doubt. It's that, you know, we said before about you start getting people making juice in their bathtubs. I know people do it themselves now, but actually making it in the bathtubs to sell, and sell at a premium as well.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to be winding Nightbot up with all the symbols as well. Nightbot's going to like completely explode in a minute. He's going, just stop it! just leave it alone. So you have, don't worry about it. TBD. Just don't put any emojis. You'll be fine, brother. I'm going to say this all night, aren't I? Right then, Salford. Have we got any more news?
Salford.
Salford.
You're doing the news now, Salford.
I was looking at him. I'm looking
Right,
at his eyes.
because he was looking at the one that looks oldest of the lot of us. That's what it was.
So there was one which I sort of picked up on, but the story that I read was in the Times, and I have to subscribe to the Times to see the full story. So I had to get another story, but it didn't have the same title. But the title on the original story was Imperial Brands. It was something like drops dividend target growth to expand vaping products. That was the title, and it was basically about Imperial, you know, sort of changing their.
What they're saying there as well is they're dropping the prices of dividends. They're on about buying them back, aren't they, at a cheaper price?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, if you read the whole article.
Yeah, but they say it was in the Times, and it was basically saying that there were. I'll just talk amongst yourselves while I find the appropriate bit. But it said, while traditional sales of cigarettes have been declining in developed markets, e-cigarettes have also come under regulatory scrutiny following a surge in teenage use of the devices. The company's shares, which had tumbled more than 17% so far this year, as the wider industry suffered from an increased investor focus on ethical investments, rose 2.2%. But it said that whatever they were doing, and I said it's really frustrating because I can't see it, and I'm not paying bloody 30 quid or whatever it was for the Times subscription. But it was basically saying, you know, we're changing the way we're doing things around dividends, basically to target vaping products as opposed to tobacco products.
It's massive what they're going to start. Do you think there's going to be a tax over here on vaping?
It will happen eventually, but it won't happen until the shit show known as Brexit's over with, and it won't happen until after the next general election.
But I said, I think was on the show on Sunday night, and I said I would much rather if it came to the UK, became like more like the States or somewhere else where it was more restricted. I would rather pay a bit of tax, not a massive amount of tax, but I would rather pay some tax on e-cigarettes, whether it be liquid or products or whatever, if it makes it more acceptable, it makes it more viable for the country to continue to invest in that sort of stuff. I would rather pay a bit of tax on stuff.
Is it 98%? at one place on top of
Vermont, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Vermont.
That is just ridiculous. I wonder who come up with it. I tell you what, we don't want to go for the full 100%, but I tell you what, if we knock it down a couple, it doesn't sound as bad. It's like when you buy something it's like when you buy something for $6.99, you think, oh, that's a bargain, but if it was £7, you go, nah, I can't afford that. Isn't it? Who come up with the actual figure? I tell you what, no, we'll go 95 because it's safer than 98. But no, sorry, we'll go to 98. That's what we'll have. What? That's just a ridiculous amount.
Yeah, but say the UK was sensible and said, right, we'll put 5% or even 7% tax on vaping products, but we'll use that money to invest in promotion and stuff like that through GP surgeries and chemists and dentists and all that sort of stuff. For me, I would be happy to buy that.
Yeah, but you know as well as I know, though, it's like the 10p bag tax. That 10p is not going back to save the world. That's going back into coffers to go and fight other people's wars. That's where it's going. It's not like they're suddenly going to go and sort out the plastic part of it, are they?
No, I suppose not. But
you don't even know where the money's going.
No. It never goes into what you think it goes into.
It's not like they've got. I tell you what, it's like a saving schemes at the local working men's club. Like we're going to put it down for children's trip. All them 10 pences that they're taking off you for a bag for life. I've got more bags for life now than I had before. I used to have them little thin ones. I've got bags for life. I've got hundreds of them. I just pay 10 pence instead.
Yeah, but you have them, that's the problem. You have them in the car. Every time we go to the supermarket, Helen will say, before I leave, you've got the plastic bags, yeah, they're in the back of the car. I always get out of the car, go to the supermarket, and shit, I've left the plastic bags in the car. Yeah. And I'm not going back now, so I've got a trolley full of shopping, so I'm going to have to pay for more plastic bags.
The other thing as well is, I look fat enough. The last thing I need is 3 bags for life stuffed in my jacket, making me look even wider before I've even got to the shop. You've got nowhere to put your keys, you've got nowhere to put your mod, you haven't got anything, and you can't carry them empty, can you? Because when you carry empty plastic bags, you've got that feeling that you need to skip. Because they're just in the wind.
Why did they not stick with the old idea? I know this isn't vaping, like Sainsbury's, in fact, a lot of the supermarkets at one point started giving you those plastic, like the plastic boxes. You had your own plastic boxes, didn't you? I think you paid like £1 for them, something like that, when they first started out. And
I'll tell you the reason why I wouldn't do that, because like the bus companies, they'd start charging you for an extra seat. Because they'd do out bus companies to get an extra £1 or something off you. You can't really walk around with a great big box, can you, if you're not in your car?
No, but that wasn't the point. Most people go to the supermarket in the car, don't they? Most people would go shopping in the car, unless you get your shopping delivered. They go and do the shopping in the car. So if you have the option to have plastic bags still then, but you have the option to have the big plastic boxes as well. And you basically just hoik your shopping into the plastic boxes. And I think Tesco's, you could scan it yourself as you're going around as well, so you didn't have to empty it all out at the end. It was great. It was a brilliant idea. And then they just scrapped it. Asda now is stopping doing plastic bags altogether. Home delivered. Not that Asda have ever had plastic bags anyway. We get we used to get our shopping delivered from Asda. Every week they came without plastic bags. He turns up at the door. I'm in a rush, and you've got to empty all these cans of beans and God knows what else out individually, bring them into the house and keep going bloody backwards and forwards.
Also with them, you're trying to check if you've got all your stuff, because we did it for a while. Think, we'll get it delivered. And then what they do is, if they haven't got that item in, they give you another item. So just say you wanted a set of baked beans, then they give you some surf washing up liquid for it instead. It's like, that's nothing like baked beans. Why would I want that as well?
A lot of them now have a tick box for no alternatives.
But their alternatives are a little bit weird, isn't it? If it's not there, we'll just stick something else in.
Never have alternatives. Never have alternatives.
It's like they've got somebody called Walter in back. That'll do. Put that in there. They're fine. He wanted some haddock. We'll just stick some fish fingers in there. They're exactly the same. Well, they are really, aren't they? Right, we'll get off the actual sort of bag sort of deal of it. I've got a question for Vic. Obviously, you had a wonderful time in Stuttgart, especially trying to get there. You did a bit of a Phileas Fogg and went around the world in 80 days, or 80 vapes. It was trains, planes and automobiles, wasn't it, really?
It was. Fucking hell.
The only thing it didn't turn into, obviously, you getting into bed with Crisco, and I hope that's not my hand. Obviously, both of you was very impressed with the way that Expo was set out. Do you think that is going to be the future, maybe of our Birmingham Expo? Because there is news as well that the jam is maybe not going to happen in Liverpool. Do you think that's the way forward?
I think it will be. I know that Jay Cox, the organizer, the head guy to do with the Birmingham Expo, he runs a vape shop as well. He actually went over to the Hall of Vape on business to business, which is the day that me, Chris, and them weren't there. We were there for the 2 public days. So Jay and I think it was someone from Vape Around and someone from VapeTube, all 3 of them were in to have a look at the Hall of Vape, how it was organised, how it was planned, and then they left before the public day. So I'm hoping at least that the UK Expo, the organisers of the UK Expo came back with a few ideas. They might not implement it for October, because that's way too soon if you think about it. The floor plan's already laid out for October and they're taking the bookings now. But hopefully they're going to implement something for next May, because the way I see it, the UK Vapor Expo's got a very, very big problem, and I said this in the special as well, because there was some Chinese companies that were turning around to me on Saturday and saying, Vic, we don't know if we're going to be at Expo next May, because we're going to be here. And if you look at what's happened with the timing, the UK Expo next May is on the first bank holiday. May, it's always on the first bank holiday. But Hall of Vape is now 2 weeks ahead. It used to be at the end of May, now it's the middle of May. So there's only a 2 week gap between the UK Expo and the one over in Germany. And there's vendors saying, we don't know if we're going to be there in May, because the way that Hall of Vape was ran, the way it was organised, the way it was laid out, the way it was policed was fucking 10 times better than anything that the UK Expo's offered so far.
Did you were saying about the security there as well, weren't you? Was the was the plain closed ones just wandering around as well, checking that everything?
It was plain. You see, I'm an ignorant bastard when it comes to looking at people. It's like, oh look, there's a bloke with a shirt and t-shirt, and then Chris, I think it was Chris actually. Chris noticed it first. Chris said, look at the ear. They had an earpiece in, a see-through earpiece with that little cord going around there. Their security in plain clothes.
Because
that's what you want, though, doesn't it? That's what you want. I mean, how many people had stuff lifted over the last few years?
I know.
TVP took his first one there, didn't they?
That's right.
Yeah, did you? And also in our reviewers area, we never used to use. It was set up for us before, but we never really used it. But this time round we used it because obviously Vape Around were kindly, and also VapeTube. They made sure it were all sorted for us. But even there, where our people were, there was a couple of things were lifted from there, weren't there?
Yep. I think Roy lost a tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think somebody else had a smoke kit lifted as well. Who the fuck would want to steal a smoke kit? But somebody stole a smoke kit as well. Also,
there's been the last 2 expos, which is really strange. There's been a couple of scuffles as well, or confrontations.
Yeah.
Which obviously the ones we've been to before, there was nothing like that. Everybody were nice and friendly. But the last few, there's been a bit of drama, and one stall got smashed up in the last October, and so the extra security, because only one in Expo is the yellow jackets sort of walk around, don't they?
Yeah, and then you can see them for miles away. And the trouble is with the yellow jackets, if someone's up to something and it's like, oh, yellow jacket, but plain clothed security on a regular circuit, like every 2 or 3 minutes. That's what I was counting, at least, between staff, organisers and security. Roughly every 2.5 to 3 minutes there was some member of staff or security walking round. There was a couple of mods stolen, but nowhere near the amount you see happening over at the UK Expo. Nowhere near it.
TBD got a pod kit lifted as well.
Yep.
And obviously one of the big stories as well was the gentleman who went up and nicked a couple of the kits.
Oh, and he got caught because he had the branded shirt. The fucking idiot.
He had his Facebook group in his name. And then obviously he sent him a message saying you need to come back and pay for these kits, and he's like, I've only got 40 quid left. He says, well, leave the 40 quid at the stand and bring the kits back.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing though,
that is.
See, I don't know about you. Plenty of times I've wandered round and there's been people at juice stores, and what you do is you put your mod down and you try their juice, and then you put that back and then you walk off. And there's plenty of times I've gone to them behind the back of it, somebody's left the mod.
Yeah.
You should do it. I know when I was at Expo, I looked like a complete twat with my what's it around my neck?
Lanyard.
Yeah, lanyard around my neck with me. I have the little Lost Vape. No, it's not Lost Vape, it's made by Lost Vape, but it's not called Lost Vape. With my mod stuck on the end of it, but I never put my mod down. It was always around my neck. And like I said, for looking like a twat for 2 days, I'm not bothered. I was quite happy.
Well, that's what I went...
excuse rest at time.
Sorry?
What's your excuse rest at time?
Same as yours, Salford.
I get this, Vic. I get this every week. These two, they're at it every week.
We're
They're
not
like a married couple.
We're not at it, Aidan. I can assure you.
It's bad enough that he comes over the borderline into my sort of area.
Tell me
Twice
about it. It's bad enough
for
having
2
to
days
do
a week.
So, in terms of the Expo, and you're saying about how the German one, Vic, how it was laid out, what made that better than like the UK one?
The aisles were wider, things were planned out a hell of a lot better.
Right.
And it was in 2 separate halls. All the noisy bastards were in the juice hall, and the hardware hall was fucking silent.
Was it?
Silent, no music at all.
The last couple of expos has been a reduced amount of people, haven't they, been there?
Yeah.
Do you think it's coming it's had its peak here in the UK? And with that one in Germany coming up and people seeing that's going to sway the difference?
I think one of the big reasons that the footfall for the UK Vapor Expo was going in, I mean, you look at it, in 2017 and 2018 you had Vape Jam, which was far bigger than the fucking sorry excuse that Vape Jam popped up this year. You had the meet in Doncaster, you had Vape Fest, you had the meet in Manchester. There was about 7 or 8 relatively bigger vape meets in the UK between 2017 and 2018. One of the reasons that a lot of people stopped going to Expo is because they concentrated on the smaller events. But this year, Jam's falling apart. I don't think that's even going to be on next year, man. I don't think it's going to be here next year. The Doncaster meet's gone. The Manchester meet's gone. The London meet's gone. Vape Fest isn't on, and the only one that's left with any kind of organisation is the UK Vapor Expo. I think you're going to see a massive footfall for the one coming up in October.
Right. So basically, we had too many meets, didn't we, in the short term?
We did.
And that's what happened. I'm hoping it's not because a lot of people are seeing the German one and saying, that's where I want to head to. I mean, you had that Modders Gallery, they had all that lot all separate and what have you, fantastically set out. Something has to be different here, doesn't it, to get people in there.
But I mean, what the UK Vapor Expo need to do, and I think this is the secret why the Hall of Vape was so damn popular, because Vaptio had Aiden on a big screen.
I was next to you, though. I was next to you.
Yeah, it was both of us actually. It was doing repeats between both our reviews for the same
that was race, that. And you were there. I messaged him, obviously, with all the crap that he'd gone through. He says, "Oh, and by the way, you're and I was in your vlog as well. By the way, you're on the big screen again," which is quite good. It's quite international, aren't we? International.
Yeah, international
reviewers. But yeah, I love the idea of that, of where they split it. So you've got a juice end where you can have all that zebra juice shouting.
Yeah.
And then you can go and look at the shinies and talk to people.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
That Modders Gallery though. There was a few occasions I was tempted to whip out the fucking business credit card, but I knew for a fact if I started doing that, I would go back to a fucking bankrupt company. So I went, nope.
TBD says, so Vic, would you say Germany would be a better option for reviewers?
No. And here's why. Because Germany does things the same way that the American meets do it. You go to an American meet, a classic example is the meet that went on, I think it was last weekend, where Mike Vapes, in fact it might even be this weekend coming, where Mike Vapes is organising a reviewers lounge. You go to ECC, you go to NVE, and you look at the material, the promotional material, and it's like come and meet Mike Vapes, come and meet Jay Hayes, come and meet Zophie, come and meet this, come and meet that. The same thing happened over in Germany, but the emphasis was in some, and I had no idea how big some of these German reviewers are.
Same with the Russians as well, isn't it?
Yeah, you're talking hundreds of thousands of subs, and it was like, come to Hall of Vape, come and meet this German reviewer, Phil Basardo, big orange tube, Dimitri, who's a nice fella, but you go to Hall of Vape, you might be recognised, but I'll be honest, probably not, because I was recognised. It's not like UK Vapor Expo, which is our stomping ground. Every 2 or 3 minutes it's like, how you doing, Vic? That must have happened over in Germany about 5 or 6 times over the whole weekend. The emphasis at the Hall of Vape is for the German reviewing scene. And that's the way it should be, to be honest.
Yeah, because it's their homegrown, isn't it?
It's their home turf. It's their home turf.
Is that going to be hit when I was on Mark's show on Sunday night with Dimmy? Dimmy was saying that obviously Belgium is hit very big on regulation of selling stuff. He said they can't even vape in the shops. They're not allowed to vape in the vape shops over there. But he said Germany as well now. Germany's clamping right down on it and putting more regulation in place.
No, they're not. It's the exact opposite.
Yeah, they're whipping some, aren't they?
Yeah, Germany got rid of the 2 mil tank capacity last year.
I remember reading that.
Yeah, so I was over there, me and Chris, and there was a bunch of German folks staying at the same hotel as us. You know that Brunhilde tank that I reviewed? The fucking huge bastard.
Yeah.
There was people with that fucking huge unstacked mechs. So the thing was like this fucking long, and that was like, that's my normal setup. Are you insane? But there was people using, there was loads of people using the Steamcrave Aromizer Titan with the extension glass, with the Steamcrave Titan mod. It was all big tanks over there, huge tanks.
That sounds like they're walking around with Olympic torch.
Yeah, that's some of them were.
Germany tried to write out the 2 mil limit anyway, didn't they, right from the start?
Yeah.
Of the TPD. That was one of the things they didn't agree with.
They did not like it. They didn't like it over in Germany. The German government basically forced the 2 mil tank capacity in, but they get that much blowback from it. They lifted it last year.
Yeah.
So this is something else that arises as well. We hear all this about America, and you hear bits about sort of Belgium and Germany, but you don't hear much from the rest of Europe. So you don't hear about Spain, Italy, Greece, France, all those places. You hear very little about the regulation there, what's being done, whether it's being promoted, whether it's been over-regulated or anything like that. You hear very little from the rest of Europe.
Normally, Greece and Spain, they don't get monkeys, do they? It was like when the smoking ban and they brought in, everybody was still smoking all in the bars, weren't they? They just didn't get monkeys.
Yeah, they've got regulations, but they don't enforce it half the time.
You can't buy stuff. I mean, I'll go on holiday to Lanzarote. You cannot.
Greece couldn't be asked to get their own taxes, could they?
There's two vape shops. I think in the whole of Lanzarote. One in the capital and one in not Playa de las Americas. That's Tenerife.
Yeah, because I think Spain hammered vape shops with a fucking huge tax.
Right.
And that's what shut a lot of them down.
I've thought about maybe going over there for something a little bit different. It sounded absolutely fantastic. Obviously, your experience didn't help with somebody defecating themselves in the... that is just so funny.
Well, the thing is, you won't need to go to Mordor Airport, better known as Edinburgh Airport. You could probably get a flight from Manchester.
Yeah, or Doncaster.
Or Doncaster, yeah.
So, most importantly, how much are the hotels in Germany?
Depends. I mean, the hotel that we were put up in with Vape around, it's a bit like Germany's version of the Premier Inn.
Right.
It's a little bit like Germany's version of the Premier Inn, so relatively cheap stay. The bar was a bit lacking though, although the beer was fucking nice, but spirits was a bit lacking at the back. But yeah, they do have their version of the Premier Inn over there. The only major cost you're going to have to swallow is transport.
Yeah.
That's going to be the problem.
Perhaps we should have a vape Jolly Boys outing, you know, like they did on Only Fools and Horses. We get a bus and we get on the ferry and go across to Germany on a bus. It'd be good.
Well, I mean, look at Andy. Andy drove there. Fucking insane. Andy Summerfield, he drove there. I don't know how he could do it. Honestly, don't know.
They were.
Now Nightbot's now wanting to get. You're not allowed capital letters. He's making his own rules up. Nightbot is not. I've not told Nightbot to do any of this. It's making its own rules up now. What's happening? Where's that come from? Don't put. Stop spamming caps.
Yeah, when you put too many capital letters in.
Yeah, that's right, balls. The bratwurst. Oh God, it was so good. There was it's a little like diner at the very back of one of the halls. The bratwurst and chips they were serving. Oh my fucking God, it was gorgeous. It really was gorgeous.
You like a big sausage, don't you?
Yeah, I do. That's what
That's
she
Salford,
said.
I say.
No, Simon, he's on about a different kind of sausage, you see. You know, it's just the way his mind is over there. He can't help it. You know, he's got to think of things that look like a phallus all the time. You know,
like you.
That's a big one.
I totally agree with you, Josh. F off, Nightbot. I say I'm going to sort every week. I've actually took it off my channel.
Well, obviously you haven't, because it's still working.
I think he's stalking me. I've got a Nightbot stalker. So yeah, it looks a good thing. Now I have heard, obviously Birmingham. The other big thing that I think Birmingham Expo, the NEC, is quite out the way. Somebody was saying there's a bigger venue actually inside Birmingham itself. You know, like near the town centre.
The thing is, though, that you're talking about Birmingham city centre. The parking there is going to be fucking atrocious.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And very expensive.
Yeah.
We need one.
Hall of Vape was at the Stuttgart Messe, which, I mean, okay, where our hotel was, it's right in the edge of the suburb of Stuttgart. You can actually walk out from the hotel you were staying in, and literally a 2-minute walk round the corner, you're looking at old German buildings. But the actual Messe, it was the same as the UK Vapor Expo. It's a complex in the middle of fucking nowhere. There's a problem. I mean, you look, classic example, what they done with Vape Jam in London Centre. Hold on. London City Centre, the parking there was, oh boy.
Yeah.
They need to bring up north. We need a vape show, not like a proper big one. But then venues, we're struggling for venues up north, aren't we? So Manchester Arena, but then that's crappy for parking as well, isn't it? That's an arena. That'd be bloody expensive. We don't. In fact, just think about it.
Plenty of parking, though.
Yeah,
Plenty of parking.
Yeah, but we don't have anywhere like the NEC up north, do we?
I'm trying to advertise some parking there, because quite a few of the car parks there are owned by family. So, you know, there's plenty of parking down there.
Owned by family?
Yeah.
Your family?
Yeah. Members of my family.
Ah,
always out
removed
to make a
Nightbot.
quid.
Are you sure you've removed Nightbot?
Well, I've just clicked on its thing. I thought, well, you know, I can remove people. If I click on its little icon, I can just remove it as a moderator, can't I?
Yeah.
Let's find out.
Let's find out. People just put loads of emojis in. That's it.
Vic's done it for you.
Vic's done it already.
No, there we go.
What, it's got you again?
Yeah.
Can I still type though?
I think I've got about 14 Nightbots.
Yeah, I can still type. I'm not timed out anymore.
No.
What?
Nightbot's becoming AI.
Wait there. You're all commenting now. Hey, everybody's putting emojis in.
Yeah,
That's what I like to see.
Yeah, it's just warning, but it's not timing people out anymore.
Oh, great. Well, have lots of fun with it. Have lots and lots of fun with it.
It just hates you, Aidan.
I think it hates everybody at the
Powerless
moment.
Nightbot. I'm way happy now. Go for it. So we are getting to that wonderful hour of 9 o'clock. It has been absolute loads of fun to have you on. It's always a pleasure, Vic, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Anytime, Aidan.
Honestly, it's always a pleasure, mate. And we all are bated breath. Can't wait for the new Kelpie.
Which
and
one?
we are.
The mouth to lung for me.
Well, there's that many coming out now, isn't there?
Yeah.
Dick, I meant to ask. Actually, there's two questions I've got for you. One was when you were talking about mouth to lung. Are you still as strong a mouth to lung user as you used to be, or are you more subarm now than mouth to lung?
I still mouth to lung for the first hour or so in the office, 12, 16 milligrams. I don't punch a kitten and set fire to a puppy. But then then after that I go on to stop coil sub-ohm. But yeah, I still mouth to lung in the mornings. Always in the mornings.
And then the second question, most importantly, Jeremy or Boris?
God, it's like asking who do you want to look after your child, Fred or Mary West? Jesus God, it would need to be the lesser between the two evils, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Boris is a loose cannon. He's a loose cannon. I would rather see Jacob Rees-Mogg up there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But
I sort of particularly, because it doesn't matter who you have up there, it's all going to be a shower of shite. But I just think having Boris there, at least we're going to have the fun bit of it, because you can tell with the whole way he's done his campaign as well. You know, there's somebody behind him going, just don't say a fucking thing.
Yeah.
Don't open your mouth. If they say anything, go away from the question.
Yeah.
And he's probably Ian Duncan Smith or something, because isn't he supporting him or something? Isn't he his campaign manager? So that's why they said, don't go on any of them shows. Don't go on any of them shows. It's like me going on a charity stream, absolutely hammered. Just don't let him on. Don't go on any of them shows. just don't.
The one thing I will say, the one thing I like about Boris is he says it how it is. There's no holds barred, and anything to get away from this bloody snowflake society for me is a good thing. I think, like you said, and it's if it does all go to shit, you'll have a bit of fun before it does all go to shit.
I think it's going to be an interesting general election myself, because I don't think you normally 9 out of 10 times it's normally between Labour and Conservative, maybe with the Lib Dems pushing up. I think it's going to be very, very interesting what this country feels, because they're so split, aren't they?
They are. That is. Yeah.
And whether they deliver actually Brexit in the end, I don't know. What do you think? They think they'll do it, or?
I think they will.
If they don't do it, you're looking at a case of the possibility of a civil war.
It'll go back to
also somebody prosecuting the government for not going through the will of the people, which is what they're there for.
Exactly. If they do it, I can guarantee you that once Brexit happens, which it probably will on October the 31st, within 2 years, Scotland will be independent.
Do you think?
I can guarantee it. It's going to happen.
You see, I'm sort of conflicted with this, because I would like Scotland to remain part of the UK. So me as an Englishman, I would like Scotland to remain part of the UK. But I respect the Scottish for having that nationalist sort of patriotism, the Scottish patriotism, to want to do that. I don't like Nicola Sturgeon. I can't stand Nicola Sturgeon. But
yeah, wee Jimmy Cranky.
Yeah,
she's just annoying.
But you see the Scots who are really behind it. It's the patriotic part of it. That's why I really respect. I have to class myself as a patriotic Englishman.
It's not just that, but Scotland as a country is being dragged into Brexit, and Scotland as a country voted to remain, not to leave. Mm-hmm. And we voted to remain by a fucking big margin. Big margin. I personally voted to leave because I think fucking the European Union's just slowly coming into a communist state, if you ask me. I voted to leave, but Scotland as a nation voted, I think it was something like 65% to remain. And we are being dragged in to leave by a parliament down south in England that can't even organise a piss up in a fucking brewery.
But see, we talk
within 2 years.
We talk about the Irish border. What will happen then if they do? The Scottish-English border, that'd be interesting.
Fucking can of worms.
There was a film, wasn't there, a few years ago about Scotland being walling itself off from the rest of the UK. There'd be like a massive, great big wall. I can't remember what it's called now. But
Adrian tried that once.
Adrian tried that, didn't he? Obviously, with if Scotland do go on their own, there's a lot of things that need to be sorted out, and it's obviously is it going to be financially viable? Because I think the EU have said that they wouldn't accept them on their own, would they?
No, they wouldn't. We'd need to go through the whole EU process again, but I think it would be financially viable.
Would they be wanting? Would they obviously then if England suddenly just went, oh, I tell you what, we'll not subsidise anything up there, no free prescriptions, no all that sort of stuff. That's going to be changing the way the country is at the minute. Obviously, your universities as well, they don't have to pay for that either, do they?
But here's the thing, though. Scotland has been paying in more than we've been taking for the past 25 years. Think about it. All that oil up in the North Sea. And here's the thing. When Indie Ref was going on, you had politicians like Rees-Mogg saying, oh, well, the oil is going to run out, you know. It's going to run out in 2025, Scotland. You're going to have to remain in the United Kingdom so we can pat you on the head and say, oh. So everyone said the oil's going to run out in 2025. One fucking day after the result came out, Rees-Mogg, the same guy, said, oh, it wasn't 2025 because I just forgot about something. We found 3 new oil fields in the North Sea, enough to keep the North Sea oil going for the next 150 years. The lying, two-faced bastard.
The only trouble is, though, is the price of oil has dropped so dramatically.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Well, it's not just oil. The whiskey exports was something like £17.2 billion a year, just on whiskey. Then you've got fishing, you've got tourism alone in Scotland. Tourism for Scotland far outweighs tourism down south in England. There's a lot of income up here. There's a lot of income. Silicon Glen as well, which is our version of Silicon Valley over in California. That's a load of income as well. So another thing you need to remember as well, the population of Scotland is less than the population of London. London's got 7.5 million people living in it. Scotland's only got 6 million, so there's less people, but more money coming in. It's all worked out.
But obviously, in the way there'd be the taxes, obviously the waters as well, you'd have to sort that out as well, wouldn't you?
We'd need to sort everything out. I mean,
because
our own water.
How much of that North Sea is classed as yours and how much is it classed as ours?
Three quarters of it's within Scottish territory, a quarter's under English territory.
Be interesting.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun.
Because obviously then you'd have to have a passport to get to Scotland, monetary. You wouldn't be able to keep the pound either, would you? Nah,
we need to come up with our own currency.
So then, obviously, that currency's then got to stand up, hasn't it? It's a little bit. You might have £70 billion coming in, but yours might not be worth as much. You know, like if you go to Spain, or as you used to.
Well, what would probably happen is Scotland would probably end up falling under the euro. That's what probably would happen. Eventually, we'd end up falling under the euro.
Yeah, it's quite simple to go, right, I tell you what, we'll not have anything to do with it and we'll just create our own currency and we'll call it the Scottish pound, and it's not as simple as that. You can't just suddenly get a currency and then it actually float on the actual markets.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff.
You could have like a Scottish pound, but your Scottish pound could be worth 60 pence to our pound. Well, we've gone all political at the end. We stayed away from it for ages, and I think that was Mr. Coyley's fault.
Just before we go, that's my. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Battery's nearly gone.
Oh wow, it's almost flat.
Yeah, and that's not even one tank.
You need to get yourself the Sagelli. You need to get yourself the Sagelli Rocket. Looks the same as that.
I saw.
Yeah, same as that. 25 watts, and the battery life's actually pretty damn good on it.
Is it? See, I'm really into the Caliban. That's your fault, actually. But the Caliban is not your fault. I won the Caliban off you. The Caliban is
they were saying about. Of course, we could keep the pound. The pound's actually done by the Bank of England. There isn't actually a treasury, like a bank. It's all come from the Bank of England, isn't it? So if we said we didn't want to keep the pound, they couldn't keep the pound. I think that was one of the biggest arguments in the last when they had
It was a big argument, yeah.
So if England went, you can't keep the pound because it's ours. It's done by our bank, the Bank of England. I am right about this, aren't
Yeah, well, technically speaking, the Scottish pound is governed by the Bank of Scotland, but the pound sterling, which is the real name, pound sterling, the pound sterling is governed by the Bank of England itself. But each individual devolved country, like Wales with the Assembly, Northern Ireland, and Scotland, their individual banks oversee the actual distribution of that country's version of the pound. But the pound sterling, which is what they're all under, governed by the Bank of England.
Will it mean that there's cheap whiskey in Scotland? Because if there is, that'll be the next thing, won't it? We will be able to come over over the border in Scotland, get our cheap whiskey, and then come back.
But technically, it would be, because it'd be duty free.
That'd be ace, wouldn't it?
That'll do for me.
Just dipping over the wall.
Chuck over the wall.
So then, we have got one last thing to do before we go. It is Salford's quote of the week, which I have got all sorted, so I can stick his lovely face up. There we go.
Oh, it's Salford's quote of the week.
So you got my bird on. You got my bird on.
Your bird's been on.
Right. It's good job I've written something down then, wasn't it? Right.
You can't do it unless you got it written down, can you, Salford?
No, I can't. Because I've got a head full of things, I can't remember everything, and help you out at the same time. Right, shut up, Simon, please. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. That's what every one of us should be doing. Theodore Roosevelt.
I thought I heard it before.
Yeah, it's not one of mine, Vic. It'd be full of effing and blinding.
So, while you're there, Salford, say your goodbyes, brother.
Right, guys, everybody in chat, without you, we haven't got a show. And, of course, we've had great numbers in because we've got Vic in. Yes, we've had Vic in. And, of course, thank you very much, Vic, for coming on. Much appreciated. And to the Yorkshireman that's not got the cap on, yeah, that's what I was going to do. To the lovely Simon, Mr. Coiler, who still hasn't given us an update on the Coily 2.
No.
And he still isn't doing. He's keeping me very much in the dark. The wonderful Simon, thank you very much. And of course, yo, little bro, without him keeping the show going along, well, you've heard it, just be me and Simon sniping all the time. Because he likes a big sausage.
It's you. No,
you're the one that likes a big sausage. Come on.
I will pass it over to the wonderful Mr. Coily Simon.
Yes, thank you to everybody in chat. As we always say, without you in chat, there wouldn't be a show, even though I have been so bad, as always, at looking at chat. Thank you to the wonderful Vic for coming on the show. Absolutely fantastic to have you on. Thank you to the old git. He's on my top corner, and it was on your top corner, and then on the screen, Mr. Salford.
Yeah, I have to be up top, don't I?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah, on your big sausage. And thank you to
my big sausage. Stop getting jealous.
I'm not. Never Salford. And to the
never
wonderful.
got your mind. You keep on mentioning it.
And to the wonderful. Stop interrupting. Rude. And to the wonderful Aidan for looking after everything, keeping everything together. I am obviously on my holidays for the next 2 weeks, so.
You said you might be able to phone in from Tenerife.
No, I'm not going to. If I can phone in from Tenerife, I'll be doing pretty well. So I'm off to Lanzarote. So.
Same thing. Less water.
So yes, I will. I'll try to. Depends how pissed I get.
And over to our wonderful guest, Vic.
Big thanks for having me on, Aidan.
Big
thanks to Simon, big thanks to Salford as well. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to Aidan yet, there's the subscribe button down there, and while you're at it, go and subscribe to the other two as well. Although Coily doesn't really do reviews, he makes coiling tools, but subscribe to him anyway. Yeah, fun show, guys. Back over to you, Aidan.
Thank you very much. And don't forget Salford as well. Get over and subscribe to the wonderful Salford. You do some corky reviews, mate. You're an absolute star. A big shout out to our guest. Thank you very much, Vic. It's always lovely to have you on. You know that, mate. Thank you so much. Big love to Salford and Simon. Everybody in chat, you make this show. Thank you very much for joining us. All the spanners as well. Also, a big shout out to my mate Paul McCartney as well. He's nearly at 20,000. I think it's about 150 off. So if you haven't gone and subscribed to him, no, it's 70 off. 70 off. If you haven't subscribed to him, go down and give him a quick subscribe. And don't forget Vic. Obviously, he needs the subs.
Struggling reviewer.
Struggling new reviewer.
Struggling new reviewer. Go over and subscribe to him. But thank you so much to everybody who've made this show. And again, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to join us next week. We'll have a guest on. I'm not quite sure who yet. And we might have some. We have got a guest on, haven't we, next week?
I haven't sorted anything yet.
No, well, we will do. But we might have an international feel to it as well, because he might be somewhere in Bognor Regis. So, have a great time, people. Look after yourselves, and we'll catch you later. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Fist flaps.
Dirty burger.
Don't forget to get yo juice.
Yes, get your yo juice, please.